Hi, Ardina.
Hi, Candy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well, thanks.
Happy New Year. Well, I'm glad that we got to connect on this because I've been wanting to catch up coming from your background of being in the dealership and in the marketing. I think that we have some paths that's probably run pretty close to each other. And as I was working on some other projects, I was thinking 2025 new goals, right? And I just thought that this would be a good time for us to maybe share some insight or just have a very transparent, casual conversation around, well, at least for me, there's have to be times when you set goals and reevaluate and adjust. And there's also the time where you just want to reset. And then I feel like every year since COVID, we've definitely wanted to have a reset year. So maybe we can just kind of kick this off thinking about maybe some ideas that you had or would you like to share for, I don't know, maybe new people that are starting out in the commercial department at a dealership, right? Or some other people that is trying to take it to the next level that's already in there. And I believe that through all of my experiences and years and stories that I have been shared with me, coupled with my experiences, that it really is about the people and networking with each other and sharing those experiences and learning a little bit from here and a little bit from this person and stitching that together so that it meets your environment, right? Because commercial departments are very different from one dealership to the next, even in the same auto group, right? So I'll just open it up and get your feedback on that.
Thanks. It's a great question, and I think it's perfect for the time. New Year's is always, for me, it's that moment where I truly reflect and reevaluate. What the year has brought, what lessons I had learned, and it's a way for me to revitalize myself and my whys for why you get up and do what you do and serve the community you serve, because without knowing that, how do you set yourself up? What are your goals? Where do you go from there? And first and foremost, I think it's really important to give yourself a moment to truly reflect.
That's good. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, what worked? What didn't work?
Yeah, I was gonna say what didn't work. Or what would you have maybe liked to have worked, but you didn't get there, right?
Right.
I like how you said reflect, because it is that I think knowing your why, or at least for me, that is why you get back up. Mm-hmm. Right? Because if you don't know your why, it is going to be easy to just to stay down when the answer is no, and no, or I don't know, or who knows, or right. So that's good. It is good to reflect. And also, it's new goals, right? So every dealership across the nation, I'm sure, has new goals. And then each member of that team has a piece of that and that goal. One thing for me that I think, again, every model is different, right? It depends on a lot: location, region, the size, the commitment that you want to be to the commercial space. But committing to it is your first step, right? Like, you have to want to know why you want to be in the commercial space, because approaching that commercial customer or the commercial approach is very, very different from retail. And I know we say that all the time, but it really, the expectations are different, the conversations are different, the cycles are different, and that also could be different from customer to customer, right?
Absolutely. The feel and the energy behind all of it is different as well when you really take a step to consider. And maybe on the retail side, you're spending a long period of time with these people, and you should be getting to know them. But in the commercial space, your long period of time isn't 4 or 5 hours in the one day. I mean, ideally it's the entire year, you know? So really giving yourself the moments to fine tune your practice so that you can do that, I think is really important, because you're not going to work with everybody. That's the reality of it.
Sure.
But even though you don't make a sale with that person does not mean that there's not opportunity later on.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That goes back to the relationship part of it, right? Just building those strong relationships. And sometimes it's almost like a little account, right? And you're just constantly making deposits into that account. I always thought that was in hearing feedback, right, from, again, a lot of time in the field and working with dealers in the commercial department. One is having a dedicated space for that, having people that's dedicated for that, because it has to have a different process, right? A different understanding than just taking a typical retail up. But in that, one question that I always got asked a lot was, how do I find new customers? And I think there's different buckets, right? And I feel like that, just knowing those and sharing those, and then you find the ones that line up with either the environment that you're working out of, meaning the department, to your personality, right? Or your existing network group that can support you to serve a certain industry, right? Because I've seen that happen in dealerships where people were focused on these customers, right? And then this account executive would be really good working with utilities, right? And did you find anything that worked for you, or the one thing that you were always trying to overcome in generating new conversations?
Well, I think for me, a big part of my success and my connection with my why is getting out there. You have to get out there. You know, you have to make sure that your online presence is there. And how do you do that? Good. You know, you make sure your sites are healthy. You make sure you're on forums, or even that you've built connections with people who will do that for you. You know, that when the camper van boom happened, you know, I set aside a good part of my van stock to be built for those customers, and they would find me, and, you know, I'd have the features that would make their adventures better. And then the momentum started working on its own, and I would get random calls from random numbers, and they'd say, oh, well, this person on this Facebook group, or this person on this forum or Reddit, you know, they had talked about how they've purchased a van from you. And, you know, that didn't happen by chance. It happened because I got out there and I wanted to make connections, you know.
It happened because you made those deposits. I love this. This is exciting, right? So these are the things that you don't know what might come from that little moment, right? But you were investing in that. And I do think that's something that I think it's important. I think it gets talked about and it gets a voice. But I think that as you're in the grind and you're doing these things that you have to do, you know, following up on something that was ordered months ago, or trying to get an update on this, or, you know, those task-oriented things, that maybe that branding yourself and being out there, right? I think that that's one of the ones that I don't think anybody thinks it's not important, but I think that it gets pushed down your priority list because of all the other things that you have to do right now.
Right. And I think that's probably one of the biggest struggles within being in the commercial selling space is your task list and your to-do list and the things that require your attention. But you do have to prioritize, even if it's 1 day a week, 3 days a month, you have to prioritize getting yourself out there in whatever capacity that means. Because yes, you're selling a brand and you're selling, your group as a brand, but you yourself, you as the dealer, you're a brand, and that has to be prioritized, even if it's for an hour a day. It has to happen, and you can't put it to the wayside. You have to carve out space and time, or it just won't work the way you
That's right.
want it to.
Because it doesn't just come to you, right? One thing that I have kind of seen on repeat would be either people from the retail side crossing over into sell in the commercial space, or just new people in the space in general. And typically, and hooray for all the ones that actually support training and growth, right? But a lot of times, because there's just it's a little bit complex and it's not like the normal retail process, I have seen where those people, just the new people or the newer ones, don't get the training and support. So when they come into an environment, they're in that environment watching what everyone else is doing, right? So if, Ardina leaves and she's gone for 4 hours, I don't know what she's doing. I'm thinking she might just be out playing golf or, having a facial or whatever, right? But they're not there to see that work that you are doing, right? That you're connecting and calling on customers and, I don't know, demoing a product, whatever that might be. That sometimes we, if it's not there in front of you, because if you're new, you don't have that, right? You don't have appointments set up. You don't have an existing book of business. Where do I start? And you're just sitting there looking for
something.
Yes, somewhere to start. Yes.
Yeah. So one thing I've always done, and I think it's great for people who are trying to build their book, to create a book. I did this. I think it's probably one of my favorite practices is on my drive, whether I'm going to work, leaving work, going to, the grocery store or something. If you pass a supply stop, if you pass a Home Depot, if you pass a Lowe's, make sure you have a stack of your business cards in your car and give yourself 15 minutes. I would do a 15-minute card drop at Home Depot and Lowe's on my way to and from work, and I would just put my card on any truck with a toolbox or an upfit or a ladder rack. And more often than not, I'd get 5 calls within 30 minutes because they got back to their car and they saw my card.
Oh, that's wonderful. Because you know what I thought you were going to say? That you're going to take a picture, right? Because I've always passed those off, right? Because I've spent a lot of time on the road and a lot of windshield time. And you would just see companies, right? Oh, yeah, this. Click, click, click. Because if I wasn't familiar with them, right, I'd be like, hey, you need to check these guys out, right? Yes. Yes. And you connect with them on social media, like just, you look at them because, even if it's a national fleet, right? Who says that you can't call them that? Because a lot of those decisions are made per depot or per region, right? Some of them are made national, but, I can't think of any one fleet that just does all their business with one.
Right.
One dealership. So,
and if you can't sell them a truck, you could probably deliver their courtesies.
Yes, something. Or what about service? Right. I mean, I know right. There's just like a ton of things there. And I think just being out there and be willing to know that this is going to cost me some time, right? But I know that it's going to be worth it because you know what? Maybe I came out, Ardina, and there was the business card on my truck. I just get it and I throw it in the whatever. I'm driving laptop here, right? But my friend that we talked at the end of the afternoon, and he's like, hey, we just lost a truck, right? Blah, blah, whatever reason. You know what? There's Ardina's card. Hey,
right.
You know what? Here. So it's not always about the person that you're talking to when they call in on the lead from a vehicle that's on your lot, right? It's not just them that you're talking to. This entire space, entire B2B is relationships, right? Someone could refer you. You know what? She took the time. She answered my questions. Mm-hmm. Everyone else was just that hang up, right?
Yeah, or I don't know. And even if you don't know, I mean, if I didn't know, I'm going to find out. That's just how my brain works. And I'm curious now too. So I want the answer just as much as you do. So we're going to figure this out together is what I'd say.
Yeah. Or maybe just even point them in the right direction. Right. Well, have you looked here? Right. This would be a nice place where I would start. Right. Or, you know, yeah, those are good things. I think that also gets you to the next level too, because I think that being in the space, Ardina, is very task oriented sometimes. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think it also takes continual training.
Yeah. And that's why it's important to always know your whys so you can remember your whys, because that's also part of the continuous training, you know, and being in the space, you can turn anything into commercial, quite honestly. I mean, I think it's great that you said, you know, take a picture, because I would take pictures of clients I'd see on the road, but I'd even have it a step further that sometimes my kids are in the car. And, you know, at the time my son was 5, he was in kindergarten, and he'd say, "Hey Mom, that's a service body. That's a contractor body." And I'd go, "Oh, is there a phone number on that? Write it down."
That's exactly right. You know?
Yeah.
And then, you know, even when, and just as you start learning those things, right, when you start having some luck or open some conversations up, right? I know that I used to always ask the leaders at different dealerships, so what questions do you ask? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm just asking, like, what question? And everybody was kind of generically the same, but everyone had their own unique approach and where they leveraged their, you know, their personality to win that sale. And I know some people's was always, I'm going to give you a personal touch, right? Like, I'm going to be that person for you for everything, and from start to finish, whatever it might be, I'm going to help you with that. And then, you know, some, I know it sounds silly, but some just handling logistics, the delivery and the logistics and taking care of all that, and that accuracy of the paperwork, so that they're not having to call back and, you know, ask for. Yes.
Yeah. I think that's also why it's important to understand that it is a personal brand for you. Sorry. Mm-hmm. It is a personal brand, you know, and no matter what your spin is, you know, whether you want to be fully immersed and involved, whether you want to just handle logistics, to really settle into your brand and own it, you know, I think is rather important, because that gives your clients understanding. And for me, whenever I had somebody new, I'd tell them, here's a little bit about how I run this department and what you're going to get. Because even if they didn't purchase from me, they knew the transparency behind everything. And if that didn't work out, you know, the reality is that I'd get a call later on, because it's inevitable that they'll need a truck again.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. Well, transparent, because they want transparency when they do business, right? They understand that importance. I do think that is the biggest separation between retail and business, because most of the time it's not such a price battle,
right,
as it is about your me getting the vehicle frictionless as possible, right? And getting it to work. And just before we run out of time, and I hope that we can connect more and just have these conversations. And, you know, if there's someone out there that's like new in this space, and, or if there's new challenges, right? Because I know with EV coming, right, that adds a whole nother layer of complexity where it's almost like everyone's starting all over again in the space, right?
Right.
Because everything that had worked before, whether you're the dealer or whether you're the end user. So if I'm the end user, how I purchase my vehicles, who I purchase them from, the conversations that I had, the paperwork, the finance, and the insurance, this is different.
Right. I think we're on level ground here, which is a good place to be, you know.
Yes, it is a good place to be. And I think that for the last few years, I've had this little hope inside of me that, hey, with EV being so much data and decisions made, actions from that data, right, that eventually we're probably going to start seeing that across all the space a little bit, you know. But I don't know. It's exciting. It's a new year. It's a new way of thinking to people. And it's a strategy. That's how I always look at it. It's a strategy. It's not one piece to it. It's multiple pieces. And you just have to commit to it. And it's not if you're new in the space, it's not a 1 month, 2 months kind of thing. Like, you have to give yourself some time. And for dealer principals that are out there, I think that's also important too, because you know, it takes time to establish that if you're starting on level ground.
Right. And I like to think of the example pioneering, you know, being that we're all on level ground, and there is going to be obstacles because there's not much info for us to go off of, and there's not much trial and error for us to have learned from quite yet in application. I think in order to be the pioneer here, you have to seek it out. You have to question. You have to, you know, look for answers yourself. Because if you're going to have an objection from your dealer principal about why you should have this EV on your lot, you should probably know why you should have the EV on your lot and what it's going to do for your clients, you know, and how to help your dealership push that through. Because if you're one of the first few with EVs, you know, then.
And that is, again, a great point, because you know what? Typically, people get that feedback from their dealer. I mean, from their end users, right?
Right.
But since we're starting here, there's no feedback. It's not like that they know. It's not like they can say, hey, you know, this is why I have to have it. Right. Or any kind of feedback from their experience. It's not like, hey, Ardina, you know what? We've been down this road and we went through this process together. We learned this lesson, so let's carry that forward. So the next time we're not going to do that. It's not there, right? Like, that's not there. And I believe, my personal opinion and all my heart, that the moving along of any kind of innovation, technology, EV, anything, starts and ends at the dealer most of the time, right? So if we want to make an impact, that's where we can make, you know, that's where we can sharpen our tools at the dealer, right? At the dealer level, it is like a tool belt, right? Like, you have the tool belt. Okay, Ardina just called, and I'm looking at my tool belt. Which tools do I take to go visit her? I'm not going to take all of them, right? And I think that commercial vehicle sales is a lot like that. It's a different approach, and every company maybe utilizes different technologies, maybe just certain pieces or entire pieces, or they have a very buttoned up process that everything has to be this way every single time, no matter what. And I think that that's where inside the dealership, it can, you can face slow down or get task burden. And this space is so important to all of us in our well-being and what we have, that I hope that we can connect again and just talk about how to keep that fire burning, Ardina, because, you know, it's tough, right? Like, it's know your why, or you just might be average. Right. Or spinning your wheels, you know. I really look forward to connecting more, because I think it's important conversations, you know, on I really believe that it takes a certain type of person to be in this world, and you don't know till you know. But once you figure out, like, the commercial spaces for me, you know, it's, you immerse yourself, and you
you got to make your network. You got to put yourself out there, and you got to know your whys, or else, we all wake up and we do what we do for the space. Why? A plethora of reasons, but because we love it, because
that's exactly right. It's not just a VIN number. It's not just a make and a model. And that a lot of times is what it is portrayed to be, but it's a lot more critical thinking to that, right? Oh, okay. And the dealers are some of the most resilient people in the whole world, right? And it's just communicating that to the next person. Right. So maybe the next time we talk, it is that passing down, right? How do you communicate that to the newcomers? Because sometimes you forget what you know in your head. And some people great people that I've worked with, I used to always say, you don't understand how much knowledge you have in your head, right? Like if I just knew that part, I could have done this part different, right?
Right. And, every time you connect or even make a connection for yourself, that opens up a world of possibilities for how you get to step into your department.
Yes, I agree. Well, I hope that this has been, some information for someone, and just to, even if it's nothing but to know, hey, keep doing it. You're not alone. These are even though you might be surrounded by greats in your department and you're new, right? You will get there. Yeah. Those people didn't get there overnight. It took help and support and steps. And if you just keep pushing the cogwheel, it will turn for you.
Yeah, I agree. You said that perfectly. So really looking forward to it.
Yes. We'll talk soon.
Yeah. Happy 2025.
Yes, same. Bye-bye.